Aloha, I am Joss. Welcome to Chapter 11, Book of Joss. Give a piece of thy peace, love. Light one candle at a time, one on one with each other. Source. Once upon a time, I was married to a charming, successful entrepreneur and living a luxurious life in a waterfront mansion in Annapolis, Maryland. We lived happily until I received my first smack in the face, literally. Over the course of our 15-year marriage, I grew increasingly disillusioned, tense and tired of walking on eggshells in anticipation of my husband's next temper tantrum and unprovoked strike. I wavered incessantly whether to stay put for the material comforts or leave to start over for my sanity and self-respect. Pretending to be the cool and collected wife for the sake of appearance and status was wearing me thin. When we finally entered into divorce proceedings, disagreements and drama dangerously escalated. I felt like a helpless lost child on a busy highway. Through my confusion and fears of separation, I was blind to the silver light between the clouds. Only much later, after experiencing the hardships, could I see beyond the thick fog that my transformational period was indeed a blessing in disguise. Although I was raised by a devout Catholic mother, baptized and confirmed Catholic, I was a doubting Thomas of a divine spirit. My belief was quite weak. I parroted others' concrete thinking that once you die, that's it, life is over. No such thing as spirits going to heaven. I believe that man made up a religious belief system as a way to cope with finite death. All my beliefs, which I held for many years, were about to be uprooted and tested to the core. During a particularly difficult period of my divorce, at my lowest point of unhappiness and despair, I lay crying on the bathroom floor, feeling hopeless and confused. At that moment, I decided to phone my longtime friend in Hawaii, Ukulele. When I spoke to her, she was in a state of excitement and elation. She told me about her experience of how she had felt struck by lightning, then immediately heard the blasting sounds of trumpets while seeing calming visions of underwater animation. Then Source spoke to her of love and compassion. Being in a state of despair at the time, I might have been viewed as vulnerable and looking for miracles. But what really tipped the scale in believing Ukulele's story was when she concisely and insightfully expressed what was going on in my husband's mind. Her analysis was delivered in a most kind and compassionate way. How could Ukulele know so much of his inner self when she had only met him a handful of times during our 15 years of marriage? I concluded that something beyond the ordinary was happening to Ukulele as well as to me. Ukulele said my phone call to her was no accident and was destined to be, that I was now touched and would be very blessed. Her reassuring words gave me a hopeful lifeline to hang on to. It was also an indelible pivotal point for me in awakening my buried spirituality. I had been way off course and was now being guided back to my spiritual path. When Ukulele and I ended our hour-long conversation, I had a peculiar thought. Did I just get off the phone with Source? Life lessons are not punishment or attributed to so-called bad karma. Simply put, these life lessons are just experiences to experience. Source. At what point during my separation, I was partially living out of my car, lugging all my personal belongings in and out of my friends' and relatives' homes. Nevertheless, I felt very blessed. Rarely did I cry or feel despondent, because I believed I was beginning a new spiritual path and that all my relatives and friends, and even strangers I met along the way, were my guardian angels. I felt so much love and emotional support from all who came to my rescue. Every day, my heart was filled with love and gratitude. Many times a day, I stopped to pray, as I was now consciously aware of Source's hand in all that was happening. Very often, I thought of Ukulele and that fateful phone call, and how she helped me find a closer connection with Source. Wow, how that one phone call affected my entire perspective on life. Our awareness of the living Source is manifesting among us during this time of great shift or transition to personally guide us into our emerging new earth. Source. I returned to my home state of Hawaii and felt like I had died and gone to heaven. My spirit soared. I soaked up the warmth of the sun, soft, gentle trade winds, and loving embraces from my family. I felt Source was protecting me, embracing my every step, and was in charge of my healing program. But not long after my return to Honolulu, I had lunch with Ukulele and her daughter. Besides the usual small chat, I shared several synchronous episodes, including my reading of The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield and Messenger by Jenny Stepanek. These books had greatly affected me in affirming Ukulele's divine intervention. As I spoke about these books and fresh insight in my life, Ukulele sensed that I had been touched by Source. Her face lit up as if someone had switched on a light bulb, giving her the green light to open up more about events that happened after her initial intervention. She shared how she had kept journals, including volumes of downloads from Source, but only to burn them because her family was upset and fearful that she may have been possessed by demons. I was so happy beyond words that Ukulele felt safe sharing her rare and profound experiences with me. I too needed something to help make sense of my own surreal divorce experience and 180-degree departure from my life of affluence to near destitution. Our lives had been forever changed. For now, we were sharing the same spiritual highway, but in different lanes. I learned of other close friends of Ukulele who had been touched by these powerful messages from Source. Through Ukulele, Source helped each of us in our own personal challenges, giving many profound insights and clarification to our questions and experiences. The messages were all about love, compassion, the importance of forgiveness, and trying to see Source in each and every one of us. Regardless of how seemingly complicated our problems were, Source guided us through any barriers we may have felt, providing us with valuable insight into our own shortcomings and misconceptions of ourselves and of others, and helping us correct our misconceptions and outdated beliefs. Source repeatedly explained, there is no hell, there is no evil, other than what man conjures up. For where we once felt we were destined to hell or surrounded by evil, Source shared a different perspective. In doing so, our perception changed from a destiny to hell to an existence of heaven. And what once was considered evil was now seen with compassion and love. Source said that all religions are one, and no matter if we are devout saints or staunch atheists, we all eventually return home to heaven, which I have come to understand is right here on earth. Heaven on earth. This was a paradigm shift from my Catholic upbringing. But nevertheless, I felt in my heart that all I was hearing was true. Another message repeated over and over again was listen with your heart, for this is everyone's true compass. Source speaks to all of us through the heart, if we could be still and attentive to the subtle, gentle voice within us. These messages from Source gave me pause to reframe my whole way of seeing or perceiving the world. They shed light on which path I wanted to choose in approaching all of my relationships. I gradually began to understand that my biggest challenges and lessons were in my closest relationships. For example, my estranged husband and my family. In reframing my way of thinking, I realize now that my former husband's spirit willingly chose to be a co-participant in my life lessons so that I may be catapulted along my spiritual path. His spirit released me from our marriage so that my spirit may continue to further grow. Though I experienced the breakup as painful and negative at the time, I now see it as an act of love. My spirit, too, willingly chose to be a co-participant for my husband's life lessons, for his growth as well. This, too, is an act of love. I realize now that by sincerely forgiving my husband and likewise apologizing to him for any hurt I may have caused him in our marriage, I am able to let go in love. There is no expectation or need that he do this in return. All is forgiven. I set my soul free. Our life journey is a series of experiences and lessons. As Source said through Ukulele, our lessons are not just for ourselves. These lessons are for all. As we arrive at our aha moment of understanding, we may share it with others so that they may benefit from our insights. We were reminded that Source is within us through all our joy, sorrow, and pain. Source is the all, and we are inseparable from the all for all eternity. Though this concept is still hard for me to grasp, Source's messages are always utterly articulate and flawless. Through the use of Ukulele's body and faculties, I believe the messages can come from no other than Source, and that Source is alive, a living being that we can have a conversation with anytime, 24/7, anywhere. My profound lessons of love and forgiveness continued for many years following my divorce. A deep internal struggle of teasing out and sorting through my jumbled emotions of disappointment, anger, anxiousness, and fear kept me up at night. Deeper pent-up feelings also surfaced, like self-pity, self-blame, humiliation, and shame, all based on my belief at that time that I was being punished for something I had done wrong in my past. Even still deeper than the Mariana Trenches, that is the deepest part of the world's oceans, were my buried feelings of love and compassion for my former husband. I sensed they were there. However, to truly accept them once again was not easy. Fortunately, Source's messages through Ukulele guided me to free myself of my opala, that is garbage trash in Hawaiian, that I had been dragging around like a ball and chain attached to my heart. It took a lot of work to unburden all that I carried inside of me. I was determined to break free of my self-imposed torture. I began cleaning house to remove this emotional clutter so that I might breathe again. And in my cleansing process, I asked myself, how would Source handle this? One day, as I was with Ukulele, she unexpectedly began to channel. I suppose Source knew at that time I was having difficulty in tuning in with my heart, and Source was teaching me, like a wise and loving parent, to become more aware of my inner connection. Source asked me, where am I? Where is Waldo? I began to realize for me, practicing the art of decoding my own heart of intelligence was to ask myself, where is Waldo? When I ask myself this question, a simple reminder arises to find the Waldo within. This persistent, where is Waldo question eventually led me to my aha moment during a circle gathering when Source said to us all, You are Source. Source repeated it a few more times, but more slowly, authoritatively than before. Again, Source knew when we were ready to receive this deeper and profound message. This message is not new. However, now the understanding for me was lifted up a notch. Was I willing to accept this as my truth? Was I ready to believe and trust that I am the creator? Well, some would not be ready for this and have a knee-jerk reaction by saying, "How preposterous! It is blasphemy!" But before pulling my socially conditioned trigger of denial, I allowed this to sit in my heart for a moment, to contemplate the radical concept. After all, it was just a few centuries ago when people insisted that the world was flat, and were later convinced by one bold individual that the earth was indeed round. On many occasions in our circle group, Source said to us, "I am your equal. You are no higher or lower than me. You are me, and I am you." What an epiphany. I am Waldo. I am Source. I am Joss. As I listened to my heart of intelligence, the answer to my questions was a resounding yes. And yes, this does sit well within my heart. Source is all, everything, and everybody. Therefore, that happily includes me. My life journey has taken me deeper and full circle into my spiritual path, to a greater understanding, trust, and love connection to myself. I finally found my core identity. I am the Waldo that I was outwardly searching for, discovering my source within. I finally found Waldo, smiling in front of my mirror. Yes, I am Joss. As I became more mindful of using Source's approach in my daily activities and encounters, my thought processes gradually began to shift. I was receiving validation that when you listen or follow your heart, one becomes at peace with oneself, and life flows with less resistance. It's about paying attention and being in tune or focused with one's own thoughts and feelings. When I have to make a decision about something, Source says to me, "How does that choice decision sit within your heart?" The more I practice consciously listening with my heart, the more I gain confidence and conviction that Source truly is within all of us. The following messages are my interpretation from my conversations with Source. These messages had a profound impact on my spiritual transformation, as they assisted greatly in bringing me closer to my awareness of the Source within me. 1. Hear the Source within, through your heart. Trust and allow yourself to be guided by your intuition. We are part of the living Source, as we are a part of our human parents. 2. Create yourself, rather than be passively molded by others. Boldly set your own path by being authentic and comfortable in your own gifted uniqueness. 3. Source can feel our joy, anger, anxiousness, fears, jealousies, etc. Source can feel and experience all of our human senses: hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, and smelling. It is perfectly okay to experience all feelings. 4. Practice non-attachment. See yourself above the situation you are in. 5. We are individually unique and in our separate journeys. No two are exactly alike, yet we are all part of one another as we share our experiences and discover our commonalities. 6. Talk to Source as Source is talking to you right now. Don't sit in any particular posture that is uncomfortable for you. Lying in bed and falling asleep is okay. 7. It is not necessary to segment the chakras. Consider the chakras as one. The chakras are all intertwined within the mind, body, and spirit, the Holy Trinity. Waves of energy undulating inside, intertwined tightly within the Holy Trinity. 8. Focus on the now. For the past, present, and future move as one. This is the best way to stay connected with Source. By staying in the now, things can easily unfold. You can hear Source more clearly and hence be in tune with your intuition. 9. Get to know your spirit, the Source within. 10. Be the gardener who lovingly tends to Source's plants, which is who Source is. Nurture and focus on staying grounded. Be the groundskeeper. As a groundskeeper, value who you are. Source intended these messages to be shared to all. Source is here for us, and I am humbled by this sacred assignment, which I am very pleased and honored to do. Amen. Love, Joss.